Okay, I'm going to call the regular monthly meeting of the Council for the Town of Westville to order. Going to start by indicating that we are in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people as we work towards reconciliation. Want to also acknowledge the histories, legacies, and contributions of the African Nova Scotia peoples who have been here with us for over 400 years. Roll call to my right, Councillor Dunn, CAO Weirs. To my left, Recording Secretary Reid, Councillor Fraser, and Deputy Mayor, what's your last name?
McKinnon.
McKinnon, yeah.
Yeah.
One of those Macs.
Yeah.
I have regrets from Councillor McGregor, who is out of
those
town on
Macs.
business, unable to join us tonight. Any declaration conflict of interest? Hearing none, seeing none, move on. Just a reminder that at any time, if, sometimes it's hard, I know from meetings that I attend, sometimes it's hard to know if you actually have a conflict until a certain matter arises. You can declare a conflict of interest at any point during the meeting, just from a point of view. Okay, additions, deletions, and approval of the tentative agenda. I do have one addition that I thought of this morning that I should have added earlier, and that's just a report on a meeting with regard to the deer matter, deer control, that CAO Weirs and myself attended last week. So maybe we'll add that if it's okay. We'll add that under new business, perhaps, which would be under 9. We'll put it 9B. Okay, and we'll just call that deer with 2 E's, not an A.
Perfect.
Okay, so with that, is there?
I'll move to approve the regular council meeting of April 28th, 2025.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. You ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. Did we approve the agenda? I'm going to declare the agenda approved anyway. If we didn't, I think we skipped it through that one.
Oh, my apologies.
That's all right. It's
Yeah.
all right. I accept your motion, so it's all good.
Okay.
Committee reports, and my monthly report was circulated and attached to the agenda, I believe. Just wanted to, I think, the only thing I'd add to what I said in that report, perhaps, is, and I don't remember I had it in the report because a couple things happened on the weekend. The wellness, the seniors, Pictou County Seniors Council held a wellness path forward event here in the gymnasium, which I was asked to attend and on behalf of council, and I did, and brought greetings from the town. Very well attended session, and I think a lot of good information for seniors. I did self-declare and declared that I'm a senior, so. For transparency, I'm one of you, so to speak. But great. It was a great idea, a great job by the Pictou County Seniors Council, and I think they're going to do more of those. And it's a great idea to get information out to seniors that they might not otherwise have access to. The other thing I just wanted to mention was the Alzheimer's Walk yesterday at Trenton Park. We had a good representation from Westville. I think we had a 10-member team arrive and walk and participate in the rain, and it was a great event. And I think our little team raised $400 for the Alzheimer's Society, which was a great thing. So with that, let the rest of my report speak for itself. Go to Deputy Mayor McKinnon.
All right. Thank you very much, Your Worship. I did attend all committee meetings and town events. My report tonight is not as short as last month's. NRHS is prepping for their Take It Outside Day and grade 12 graduation. I'm loving seeing all the grad lawn signs that are around Westville. They have fabulous teachers and student council members that are working on many exciting projects at NRHS, such as recently their Earth Day cleanup, Student of the Month program, and their incredible free lunch program that is made possible by the staff and students there. Walter Duggan had an incredible spring fling with great success again this year. It was wonderful to see so many families having fun, and the children's excitement was through the roof. May and June are extremely busy times in our schools as teachers as we plan all of the end of the year trips and complete report cards. So a huge shout out to all the teachers on both those committees that I'm on. I was pleased to see so many volunteers representing all the services and programs offered here in Westville at the Newcomers and Old Friends Welcome held in the gym. The Westville Fire Department, they're having their chicken barbecue coming up on the 14th of June. And of course, they're working really hard on all the upcoming Canada Day celebrations. So very happy to see the federal grant funded amphitheater coming to life in the town for the biggest day in Westville. And our Westville Fire Department volunteers really do so much for our community, and we're grateful for their time, their commitment, and the willingness to run into dangerous situations when most of us would run out. Westville 100 is another very exciting event that's coming up on June 21st, scheduled to take place. I'm just very happy that all the schools, the town, the Legion are going to be so engaged on this day, and it ensures that the Food for Focus program will be funded to continue much needed food for 53 children and no doubt many more. It is awesome to see so many community members and local businesses contributing to this wonderful cause. Police Commission, thank you to Dorothy Hale for all her hard work and to our police officers for working hard to keep our community safe. I'm pleased to see all the developments happening in town and hope most residents are happy with the upcoming paving projects that will soon begin. And that is my monthly report for May 2025.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Dunn.
Well, I was just said to Scott, I said, I'm just going to say ditto.
Yeah.
Because pretty much all of the same thing. Although I would like to give a little shout out to Walter Duggan School because they held a event. The students themselves held an event that you paid $1 for a strip of duct tape.
Oh, yes,
And
that's
they
incredible.
duct taped their principal to the wall. And I see tonight where the students raised $2,400 for Westville 100. So I would
that's
really like
awesome.
to give them a major shout out for that. Yeah. And other than that, I would like to mention that we have Seniors Night coming up for the fire department on June 26th at 7 p.m. at the town auditorium. Yeah.
I'm invited, obviously.
Because you're the same age as my mom. No, you can go.
Can I add too, for Walter Duggan, they're doing on May 30th an incredible wellness day. And I know that different organizations in town, including the Garden Club, of course, is involved in planting and doing things with the kids on that day. So that's another really exciting thing that's super important right now.
And I also have, sorry.
Go ahead.
I also
Yeah.
have a couple issues going on with some town residents that have reached out to me, and I am in the process of trying to find the answers now that Scott's back.
Yay.
So yeah, so other than that, it's been a great month.
Thank you very much. Yeah, lots going on. Councillor Fraser.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also got to attend the Walter Duggan Spring Fling, and it was my very first time, and I was thrilled at the amount of people that came through that building that day. It was a lot of fun to see everybody. I had the privilege of also attending the NSFM Spring Conference in Truro for a couple days and learned a lot. There was quite a few presentations that I think Westville can, learn from, grow from, incorporate. So I have some of that in mind to follow through with, and also like to ditto on the newcomers event. It was good to see so many vendors and people out. And I also attended all of my committee meetings and town events. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. CAO Wares.
Just a couple of additions. Sorry about that. A couple of additions to the report that was circulated. One, the water meter project is now essentially complete. There's a couple of meters that still need to be dealt with, but the contractors have left the town, and so we'll be getting them back in and trying to finish up the last little bit of that all at once. So I'm just waiting for a date on that. The other thing is Last year, Westville initiated a project to better understand the subsidence risk that the town faces. We used a RFP process, and the work in phase 1 was awarded to the Canadian Geodetic Center at the University of New Brunswick. This year is phase 2, and I just got paperwork today from the province confirming $25,000 for the town to do the second phase. We were fairly confident that the second phase would be approved, and some residents may have noticed that there were people from the University of New Brunswick in town today with GPS equipment, setting up or determining where we would be installing monitoring points, so that over a period of time we can tell whether there is movement in the town. All of this, I guess, to be blunt, in service of trying to decide, are there, once and for all, are there areas of town that shouldn't be developed? Are there areas of town that haven't been developed that should be developed? And particularly the Pioneer Coal Lands. And so this will be a step towards having enough data for council and developers and financiers to be able to determine whether some of those some of those areas are developable or not. So if you see people out there with invests and they don't look familiar, it's probably because they're doing some work for the town with regard to the subsidence risk that we face. And so I will likely have a resolution for council on that issue to deal with a little later.
Yeah, it is on our agenda later, so thank you for that. And a great report as well with everything else that's going on in town. Okay, so let's go to Protective Services, the Chief of Police report, Fire Department, and Dog Control.
I'll move to accept the Protective Services, Chief of Police report, Fire Department, and Dog Control report that is attached.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. You ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Recreation, Culture, and Leisure Services.
I'll move to approve the Recreation, Culture, and Leisure Services, the RCLS Coordinator report that is attached.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. You ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Just a comment there, it is in Melanie's report, but another date, another event coming up, June the 7th. June the 7th is, Love Your Trail Day, and we're going to be working over in Acadia Park on the trail and doing some planting as well, doing some graveling, planting, sprucing up Acadia Park. So I want to put it out there to all residents. We're looking for volunteers. Melanie has indicated to me that she's going to provide a fabulous lunch for everyone that shows up and participates. We're going to have a picnic in the park following a little bit of work. So many hands make light work. I encourage people to come out on June the 7th and look for more information on that on our Facebook page as well. Okay, so Transportation, Environmental Health Services.
I'll move to accept the Transportation and Environmental Health Services, Water Report, Public Works Report, and Solid Waste Report.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Question?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Environmental Development, Fire Inspection and Planning and Development Report.
I'll move to accept the environmental development report, including fire inspection and planning and development as attached.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. And I'll just say it once again, if anybody wants to know what's going on in town development-wise, activity-wise, check out the report from the Planning and Development Officer. It's a pretty impressive list of things that are going on or about to go on in town.
It was exciting, Mr. Mayor, at PAC this month.
It's quite
Very
exciting,
exciting,
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and stand by for more. Okay, so moving on then to correspondence. We had a letter from Lisa McDonald, the CAO for the town of New Glasgow, with regard to the Pictou County Shared Services funding application for ERIC, which is our environmental control facility. They're applying, making a funding application to the province to purchase a backup power generator for the facility. As the letter indicated, I believe, that council received, that, you know, the concern is that there's been a few times in the past when power goes out for whatever reason, if we have major storms or weather events, and it's rather critical that power isn't off very long at the facility. I won't have to go into much detail as to what would happen there, I guess. I think people can sum up that, can come to that conclusion. So the request was, this was discussed at the last planned Pictou County Shared Services meeting, and the request from Eric was to have a letter of support come from councils. Our dilemma is this, as a town. We have applied for the similar, we applied for funding under the same program. It's called PCAP. I can't forget what the initials stand for.
Yeah, it
Scott?
stands for Provincial Capital Assistance Program.
Right. So we've applied for that with regard to our exploration for water. Kind of critical to the town of Westville. Except, you know, I can't put it too lightly, it's totally critical, especially with all the development that we're anticipating that I referred to in the planning development report. So it's difficult for us, I think. Council will make this decision momentarily here. The request was that we send a letter of support to the province, basically saying we support the application. Here's the situation that I was not aware of. It was explained that at the meeting that this funding, this PCAP funding, primarily it's done by municipalities, or exclusively, I guess.
Yeah, it's directed at municipalities.
It's directed for
as-
municipalities to apply.
As the primary,
Yeah.
primary applicants.
So my point at the meeting, my question, because I was somewhat surprised by this, that the Pictou County Shared Services Authority, which is an authority, constituted, you know, properly constituted, legal entity, was not able to apply for this funding from the province directly as shared services. So the point that, or the information that we received was that, no, it has to be through municipalities. Go back to what I was saying originally. Our problem, as I see it, is that we don't want to lose our funding request, because the way it works, apparently, this is the other part of this whole equation is that there's an allotment from the province to geographically areas, Pictou County being one of them. So there's a you know, an umbrella sort of allotment, high level of allotment. Once it's used up, it's used up. We certainly don't want to lose the hope that we'll get our allotment for our water project. So that's sort of the limit. As much as, you know, it is a shared service, it is needed, we know that. It's a matter of how do we proceed with that?
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
What are the other towns, like they would be in the similar situation as us, looking at using their PCAP funding for other major projects? What is like Pictou,
Yeah.
Stellarton?
Well, that was- that-
what are they doing?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was asked, and that was, I would say that, I know that Trenton applied, I believe, was
Yeah, a
indicated.
number of towns, I don't,
Number-
not all,
number
but a
have.
number of.
The only
Pictou
ones that I
County
know are-
towns have applied for their own
Yeah.
projects.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, as I understood what the mayors were saying, is that while those towns support ERIC and the, you know, the
Right.
importance of having backup power at the water treatment plant, they also said, you know, the things that we had applied for individually as municipalities are also important to us. And it kind of puts us in a catch-22 situation.
I would say to that as well, the indication that, or what the, and I don't want to speak for the other towns, but Trenton, for example, I know the comment was made that they may be okay with sending that letter of support because what they were applying for, they felt they could wait on or do it
Yeah.
another time.
Right.
We're
Yeah,
not in that
that's right.
situation.
No, we're not.
Right.
I mean, this is absolutely critical to the future of Westville.
Yeah.
That we find a more secure
Water
source of
source.
Water, of
Yeah.
course.
We absolutely need it.
So, Mr. Mayor,
so things
if all the other municipalities give the letter of support,
Mm-hmm.
then our absence of that support won't have any,
Ill effect.
right?
That's what I
The
was-
shared services
yes, I
all of a
was
sudden
thinking
go,
the
hey,
same thing.
Westville, we're not
Yeah.
cleaning your water.
Yeah. Is
Like,
that gonna
there-
have an ill
so
effect
if,
on
you know,
us?
if Trenton
Well,
and
I
everybody else
don't know if
supports it, like.
I don't personally know if it'd have an ill effect. It'll perhaps put us in a, a situation of,
Not such a bright light.
Yeah.
yeah, noticeable that if all, now, the other thing I wanted to say is, just so people understand, Pictou is not a participant in ERIC. Pictou has their own
Right.
treatment facility.
Okay.
So
So it's
Pictou is
Trenton,
not
Stellarton.
part of it.
Okay.
So it's just the five, it's the county and
The
the
four
four
towns.
other, and the three other towns and us.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Pictou is not a part of this.
So if they all, I'm just thinking, if they all gave their support letter, then us not giving it isn't gonna lessen their like, I just don't think we're getting bumped necessarily,
I
like,
just think-
based on the letter.
Here's my thought on it.
Yeah,
I think, and I said this at the shared service meeting, I think we need to talk to the province, the proper people at the province, including our premier, and say, what's with this? Like,
Yeah.
to me, this does not make sense. Like I said before, shared services is a legal entity, duly constituted. Why can they not
apply.
make an application
Without
for
us.
grants that exist like
On their
this?
own.
On their
Yeah.
own.
Yeah.
Right.
As an entity.
Right.
Right?
Well, they
So
should
that
be
we're
able to-
not.
Yeah, like
right?
shared
And
So
so,
then we're
yeah,
not
so,
put in a
so
position.
as the act stands now, my understanding is that we can't do that. Nothing to say acts can't be changed. They're changed every time the legislature meets, there's changes. So I think, for me, we should be championing that. We should be pushing that to ask for those changes.
If I might, just a couple of comments. I don't think any of it's in an act. I think it's just program design. And so that's just a matter of going to the province and saying, your design is silly.
Right, change
maybe.
your design.
And, might you choose a different program design? That's one thing. I guess the other thing that I would add is that, the province of Nova Scotia has declared publicly that they are driving to a doubling of Nova Scotia population in the next, whatever, I've forgotten the end date, but shortly. A doubling of population means a doubling of input water and output sewage. And those are capital intensive infrastructure, and they are non-negotiable. If you're going to double the population of the province, you need to double the capacity of the infrastructure to deal with the population. And so maybe it's time for the provincial government to think about how do we assist if that growth is happening, and a portion of that growth is going to happen in Pictou County. Perhaps it's time to think about how to facilitate the growth that you've declared you want to see, right?
Yeah.
Right. And
Excellent.
shared service grants would be incredible.
Right.
Well,
And
excellent
they would
point.
be perfect for a
Right.
project like this. That is very important.
This is a great example, by the way, of,
Yes.
the federal government, the provincial government can say, we're champion housing, we need more housing, which we all know we do. And we're gonna turn, everything that we can over to make it happen. But the thing that people forget, municipalities are where it all starts. Without infrastructure, without water and sewage in particular, without roads, without streets, there's no development going to ever happen. There's no new housing ever going to happen in Canada.
No, there's a
without
lot
it.
of people not aware of that,
So,
Mr. Mayor. They don't get it. It starts
you know,
with
it's
us.
time for the federal and provincial governments to put their money where their mouth is. If they are talking about, you know, increasing the housing stock, which they are, and as the CAO says, about, you know, doubling our population in this province, we need the money to trickle down to municipalities. Not just Westville, every municipality.
Everyone.
So, you know, that's, to me, that's what we need to be talking to both levels of government beyond us about. I know that and by the way, on Wednesday, I'm leaving to go to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference in Ottawa this year. And I know that that's a hot topic. The whole issue of funding, particularly from the federal government, is something that municipalities have been pushing for the last, you know, 5 to 10 years, and, you know, to get a new formula in place. And the main one being that, you know, grants that come from the federal government to the provinces don't often see their way through to the municipalities. The province gets them and they use them for other things than what the federal government may have intended, you know, like maybe sewer, water projects. Because the province, it just goes into the general operating fund of the province, and it's supposed to be then sent out to the municipalities through grants and so on that we apply for. Doesn't always happen. So, you know, what the Federation of Canadian Municipalities has been pushing for is some direct funding that goes directly from the federal government to municipalities for these things that we're talking about. So, you know, I know we're off on a little bit of a tangent. It's a big picture thing, but it's like, if there's going to be a future for development in any town, these things need to happen, and they need to happen, you know, within the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Not, you know, 20 years down the road. So I'll just try to bring us back to what we need to decide right now, I guess. Sorry for that, but it's yeah, I get a little hot under the collar when I think about these things. What are our wishes? And I know Mitchell's not here to voice it.
Where's
but
the
that's
voice
fine.
of reason
We
when
have-
we
we have
need
a
him?
quorum.
Can I ask, CAO, where's the question? You have, you know, experience with the grants and stuff. What do you feel is the risk of us providing a support letter as a risk to our application?
I wish I could answer that.
Okay.
I
You
don't
have no
really
idea,
have
'cause it's a
any magic
crapshoot.
insight into
Right.
it. I do know that there, you know, municipalities can have more than one application in.
Mm-hmm.
There is a finite pot, and, you know, every dollar that
Right. We don't want to risk supporting someone
Yeah,
who gets bumped above us,
exactly.
right?
And,
There's
you
a
know,
global amount that they have allocated.
We, you know, Westville's application, while we have to do it every year, we did create at the start a 4-phase, 5-year project, and
For the
said,
water.
you know, these are the phases we're applying for. We're at the third phase now, and we've got, you know, we had a well drilled a week or two ago. There are a couple of more wells to be drilled in the next several weeks, once the forest dries out a bit. And, you know, hopefully we'll be able to move from that towards something else, right? But, so there is a risk. How big it is, I'm sorry, Councillor Fraser, I can't
Yeah,
quantify
that's okay,
it
that's
for you.
okay. I just,
My question earlier, before we started, I just, I thought of, is there a way that we could send a letter to the province supporting, you know, the funding requests from shared service from Eric, but also adding, you know, but not
Don't
at
touch
our,
ours.
right, right.
Well, I think we
not
could as a
at our peril, like, you know, not
Yeah.
not taking it from anything you were thinking about giving to us, in simple words. Like, if you're thinking about giving us our allocation this year for our water project, good. we'd support
That is
the
our number one
application,
priority.
Right?
Yeah,
This has
I
to
mean-
be our, and it's not.
And we have to look
it's not
after
being
ourselves, we do.
paternalistic, it's not
Yeah.
being,
No.
isolate, not being sort of, I don't know,
They're both existential threats
Exactly.
to municipality, right? If you don't have enough water, you can't develop.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough sewage treatment capacity, you can't
You
develop.
can't develop, yeah.
So they're both existential in their, kind of, at their base. They're, the risk of, to Westville and every other municipality that's connected to Eric in the short term is that if the power goes out, wastewater flows
into the East River.
untreated into the East River for that period of time that the power's out.
Right.
And it is entirely possible, not to say probable, but for sure possible, that the Department of Environment will come looking for the owners of the treatment plant if
That's
it
us.
starts
That's us.
discharging untreated sewage into the river.
Gotcha. And
So there
since
is
we
a
have the
risk.
most reliable
Yeah.
power company in the world, I mean, we shouldn't have power
The,
outages, so that would.
The other, so just to follow up on that, the thought was, this was discussed at our meeting as well, the realization that if that were to happen, and environment came and charged us, we could be looking at a bigger bill than the costs of these
Cost of the
generators.
generators.
It could be substantial.
I mean, I'm leaning towards providing the letter because it is a shared service, because I don't want to look like Westville held out from the other five. And I'm not sure it's a big risk when they're coming to look at the money. I think they'll be looked at individually and.
Especially where we've already had the
We're,
5 phases.
we're on a step,
lined out,
right? We're on
We're
a
step
3 of
program,
5 or
really.
whatever, yeah.
That may be a
I'm just
factor, I
wondering
would
if
think.
that might be a
We would hope
factor.
that would be a factor.
We would hope.
But
I
do
mean,
agree
we're all
that I
going
think that if we
blind.
could do a letter up,
Massage it a bit.
I think,
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
we'd all be
Yeah.
comfortable.
I have no issue backing
Correct
them.
me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I think we would all be fairly comfortable if we wrote a letter that said Westville Town Council is very much in favor of this. We believe it's extremely important and why we need this, the backup power generators. Make our plea for the fact that we're going to need shared services grants and how important it is that our PCAP funding stays for going for what we need, which is water.
For the rest of our phases,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
think I'd do the combined
Like,
letter.
I think we would do a
Alright.
combined letter that
Yeah.
states
Think you're
all
able
of
to
our
do that?
priorities.
We can work on that. Yeah,
What do you think?
Because I don't
we
wanna
are
not
part of,
send
we are one of the owners of that facility.
Well, I mean, that.
And that's a risk, right?
That
Like
is a
if
huge
it,
And that
that's
could
a
be a really
risk.
big bite, coming
Yeah.
back to bite us
I
if we don't
just,
support it.
my purpose in saying what I said in the beginning
Yeah.
was so that that you're all aware,
Oh,
of,
absolutely.
the risk
Yeah.
of it with regard to our water project. But we'll hope that we can certainly, now that because we're in the third phase, I guess,
It may make it, that may be a
Hopefully we
deciding
will.
factor.
And
right
we can
there.
also agree too to take your advice and keep the pressure on the province,
Well,
which
I-
is,
I
right?
certainly-
Like,
if no one else does, I intend to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's
I'm
put it that
always
way.
putting
Yeah,
pressure on them.
exactly.
independently, if I have to. But yeah,
It's just nice to have to be able to make the informed decision, right? Like,
right.
but
Yeah.
I do think that's the best way to go.
All right,
in my
so my understanding is that we will agree to send a letter of support, but coax it in some terms that indicate our concern about, our water project.
That-
And,
yeah.
that it doesn't jeopardize that.
Doesn't affect our
Right.
phase
Yeah,
that
doesn't
we're at.
jeopardize our
Right.
stage of our water. Yep.
Right.
Maybe,
we need a motion?
Secretary Reed, have you got the gist of any possible motion that someone might be prepared to make on the table?
I will motion that we approve a correspondence that we all just agreed upon for the letter that was written from New Glasgow.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. That was a great discussion. Thank you for your input, everyone. See, there are solutions to most things when you talk about them a little bit, I guess. So, and the other thing is that, you know, it wasn't required to be an in-camera session, but it reminded me as we were talking about it, we're a public meeting, but these are the type of discussions that often occur in an in-camera session, when we go back and forth and throw out ideas and arrive at a hopefully a consensus. And, you know, I always think that councils like ours work best when we can reach consensus on most, and you know, my experience around this table has been that
Usually
most
do.
times that's what happens. That's not to say that people aren't gonna have dissenting views, right? And I
Absolutely.
encourage that, and sometimes it's necessary to do that, but by and large, you know, working with, getting to a consensus usually means you had a good discussion, most times, right?
Yep.
All right, so, on number 9A, the mineral resources development funding that the CIO Wares referenced earlier.
Yeah, I do have a draft resolution for council to take into consideration. Just again, just to remind you that, you know, Westville has a 150-year history of subsidence, or coal mining, which has resulted in subsidence issues in at least some parts of town. And that can be a challenge for development. And, you know, just over our shoulders here behind us, there is, you know, literally hundreds of acres of land that can't be or hasn't been developed at this point because there is uncertainty about how stable that area is after open pit coal mining. And so this project is, as I said earlier, driving to try and give Westville Council the kind of data that is needed to make evidence-based decisions about whether development can or cannot happen in a particular part of town. So, whereas the town of Westville developed a two-phase Westville subsidence study proposal to better understand the potential subsidence risks and possible management approaches available to the town, and whereas the province of Nova Scotia's Mineral Resources Development Fund is designed to assist municipalities with certain eligible mining and mineral resource-related projects, and whereas the town undertook a tendering process pursuant to the town's purchasing and tendering policy, which resulted in the Canadian Centre for Geodetic Engineering at the University of New Brunswick being identified as the successful bidder for Phase 1 of the work, and whereas Phase 1 of the two-phase project was successfully completed last year in 2024-25, and whereas the program covers eligible costs incurred for approved projects to a maximum of $25,000 in fiscal 25-26, therefore be it resolved that Westville Town Council endorses staff applying to the Mineral Resource Development Fund to support, for support to undertake Phase 2 of the proposed study.
So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. So did I hear you say earlier that you already received word, CIO Wares?
They
that,
did call today that they are happy to
Perfect,
support
perfect,
this going forward.
right. And it's interesting because this is one of the items that when CIO Wares first came to town and he and I met on several occasions and talked about various things and so on, this was one of the matters that, to me, you know, I think in our discussion, my comment is that, you know, we need to know with certainty. You know, we need to know good, bad and ugly, right? So we need to know, like if there's parts of
So
town where
was-
we absolutely can't do anything, then
Was there
we
any,
don't.
like, off the first phase, like,
Yeah, so the result of the first phase was that much of the town is in pretty good shape.
okay,
There is
a few areas, I'm sure.
well, and there were areas where it showed a flattening of movement. So there were areas where there has been movement,
It's settled?
and it seems to have stopped. But the period of time for which it had stopped was very short.
Oh, okay.
And so,
They weren't
you
sure
know,
if it would start
yeah,
again.
one data point doesn't a trend
Yeah.
create.
Right, exactly,
And so
yeah.
Phase 2 is about adding data points so that you can decide, so that you can decide whether it has stopped or at least slowed sufficiently
Enough to-
to allow development. And if you know the rate of subsidence, then there are engineering techniques available. You know, you don't put a 24-story building on top of a place that's sinking.
But it might accommodate something
You
small.
might get away with a 2-story building, or a 1-story building, or those sorts of things, right? So there are engineering and planning mitigations to subsidence, but you have to know
Right.
What they are.
what's happening, how much movement there is, and those sorts of things. And despite the fact that, you know, Westville has a 150-year history with mining, we don't have any of that data. And so this is about getting the data so that you can make evidence-based decisions as opposed to, you know, kind of sticking
way's
your
the wind
finger up
blowing?
and hoping that
Yeah.
the wind is blowing from the right direction.
Okay, no, good to know.
Very good. Thank you very much. I think it's very important, and we'll get that information hopefully from the second phase, more conclusive. Okay, so moving on, we added deer to the agenda, so that's 9B. Just to report to council that the CAO and myself attended a meeting in New Glasgow with representatives from all units in Pictou County to address the deer issue that is rampant everywhere in the county in particular, in Pictou County, I should say, and beyond. And you all know that we get questions about it, and we've had several times that DNR has come before council. We sought their advice and as to what we could do. Wasn't a whole lot coming out of that. There was some focus at the meeting that we attended. There were representatives there from Dalhousie University, biologists from Dalhousie University, who are situated in Truro at the Truro campus. A couple representatives from there, and they provided us with some rather interesting information, particularly about the hunt that the call. Sorry, because I used the word call and I was corrected on that. They called it a managed hunt. So the managed hunt that has occurred in Truro in the last couple of years, to see what value that would have in looking at here in Pictou County. And they reported that in the first year in Truro, there were 14 deer killed, harvested, I guess is the word. In year 2, there were 41. Year 3, there were 58. And in the last year, year 4, there were 38. Their goal was to have 50 a year removed from the population. They had a partnership with several different groups, including Millbrook First Nations. And the interesting thing to me was that they utilized all those deer that were culled. Sorry, they used every part of them. You know, either for food, to the food banks, or to the First Nations for indigenous ceremonies and rituals that they used every part of the deer for. So, you know, they weren't just killed and thrown somewhere in the ditch somewhere. And also they were used for research by the biologists as well, to determine what these deer were about a little bit from the inside out, so to speak. So, you know, there was some interest in looking at this from on a county-wide basis, because you know, it's a common problem. I know New Glasgow has done a lot of research on it. They did their pellet counting and so on, and as we talked about at another meeting, I think it was a 5-year process, you know, to go through before you even get to the stage of having a managed hunt. And so, but there was some information from the department, the representatives that were there from DNR, that's going to be changed, that they're in the process of looking at the regulations, or policy, I guess would be a better word, the policy around the deer management hunting, to, you know, loosen that up a little bit to make it easier to get to the stage of doing it. The only other thing was, you know, there's a process. There was some suggestion that New Glasgow did conduct a survey, and there was some suggestion that the rest of us should probably do a survey, which is probably a good idea. You know, basically asking our residents what their opinions are on the deer population that we have in town, what they see it as, and do they see it as a threat? Do they see it as, you know, what kind of problem, what we should be doing about it, getting some input from residents, and probably having like we've done with several other things, having a public engagement session with our residents to get their input. And the other thing was that New Glasgow did come up with a brochure that they're circulating to all their residents. It's an educational piece. And one of the things that came out of this discussion that we had was that one of the most important things that you can do probably is education. It's education. It's more getting the word out on, you know, the deer situation and informing people what they can or shouldn't do. And then the other one, the final piece is, of course, that bylaw, having a bylaw in place. New Glasgow has a bylaw in place.
To not feed the deer?
Sorry?
But New Glasgow has do not feed the deer bylaw?
Yes.
Okay.
But they
Yes.
also have a bylaw officer
Yes.
to go and enforce it
That's-
too, which we
that's-
don't have.
That's the key.
So
That's the
that's-
difference.
That's
My
the big thing
position
right
stays
there.
the same, pay the bylaw officer to go enforce it. That is my position, I've put it before all of you before, I'm telling the town.
So I'm going to ask Scott for his input, because he was at the meeting as well. But I think, generally speaking, you know, because every town in Pictou County is getting the same concerns by residents. It's interesting that in any surveying that was done, like when they did the surveying in Truro and when they did it in New Glasgow, it's almost a 50-50 split on people that think it's a problem and think it's not. They're cute. You know, we need, there's no harm with the deer. They're cute, they're nice, you know, and so there's 50%
think we'll be
think that.
surprised to see
There's
the same
50%
here.
think they're, you know, we need to get rid of them somehow or control them. And I think, for me, from the biologists' input that they had, we're probably, like, face facts, we're not gonna get rid of them. We're never gonna get rid of
Not
them.
totally ever.
So
No.
we need to manage them. We need to be able to find a way to manage the deer, and the first way to manage them is for people not to feed them. Right?
I mean, think two of the facts from the biologists that I found fascinating
Yes.
were, one,
Big one.
Deer are not a vector of ticks. So they carry ticks, but the ticks are here anyway. And so having deer around doesn't increase anybody's likelihood of being
Ticks.
infested
Okay,
with
that's
ticks, or
good.
whatever the right word,
Oh, that's good to
verb
know.
is.
Lyme disease.
They're not spreaders of ticks.
They're not, yes, exactly. They're not vectors of contamination, I guess. The second thing that I found fascinating was, from a biological perspective, you have to come close to offing 60% of the herd to use that as a control mechanism. And 50 deer in Truro is not anywhere near 60% of the herd. So the cull itself, or the managed hunt, whatever you call it, isn't actually
Effective.
effective. Thank you. I was going to say doing anything, but effective.
That's a good word.
So, you know, those are, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if it's not effective, why are you doing it?
Right.
And the third thing, I guess, was, as the mayor has said, you know, the biologists are saying, it's not going to change. Life is too good for deer in towns for them not to go away. They're like, it's just too attractive.
They're a unique
It's too
breed, yeah.
safe, you know, they don't have to wade through snow in the wintertime. They just walk down the streets. They don't have to look for food because everybody's growing hostas and all the things they love. So, you know, it's perfect. So we have to learn, you know, it's maybe more about people adapting than trying to adapt the deer. And so that's where the education, I think, comes in. And, you know, there is the dichotomy in every municipal population, which is we love them, we hate them, and they're split 50-50. So it's kind of a challenging thing. There is no silver bullet, I would argue, pun intended, I guess,
Yeah.
to solve that problem.
I would like to recommend, out of the meeting, I would like for council to consider, and we don't need to do it tonight necessarily, we could put it off and, we could put it on our agenda for our next meeting, but a few steps, and the steps that I already mentioned, I think, a survey, developing a survey that goes out to residents, number one step, probably following up with a public engagement session, and to Danielle's point, and, I was always saying, there's no point to a bylaw because we can't enforce it. But the more I think about it, at least it's another tool in the toolbox for an maybe it's harsh education, but it's education. So I would suggest that we, as a third step then, look at working on developing a bylaw. Ask staff to do that. And, I think that's a starting point. As far as the managed hunt and all that goes, I mean, that's, I don't know, that's down the road. That's down the road a piece, because we'd have to do counts and all the rest of it. And I think we need to wait to see what these changes are that DNR we're talking about, that they're going to change that policy as far as getting to that stage, right? To make it easier, because I think they realize finally,
3 to 5
this is
years.
this is a
3
little
to
much
5 years.
to go out and
Yeah.
count all the
Yeah.
pellets,
Yeah, yeah.
And we have a pretty good idea about the population here in town. If you talk to someone in, wherever, I mean, I know I have my 7 that are.
That's right,
around
I have
my-
my 7 in the
right?
back, yep.
They're the same ones, I know,
Yeah.
they travel in a small circle.
Yep.
And everybody's in that boat. Some areas of town have more, and the reason they have more is because they're being fed in that. We all know that.
Yeah.
We all know that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, hopefully
if you're agreed to that, we can just simply ask maybe staff to undertake that process of bring that back to council.
Yeah,
I agree to
Mr. Mayor,
that,
we can bring back an approach, and
In a
perhaps
survey?
even some drafts for the survey and a bylaw and a public engagement process for next meeting.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
that sounds good.
Everyone agree with that? That's
Yes.
fine?
Absolutely.
And I just think, I'm kind of happy that progress, at least we're doing what we can do to combat the situation and gain better understanding. And I hope that's what residents, would expect from us. We don't have a magic bullet, so to speak, but we'll do our best to come up with some policy.
Can I
that'll
ask
help.
a quick question just before we move on? Was there any mention of coyotes at the, yeah, because I am getting some constituents that are complaining about that as a safety
Yeah.
concern for themselves, their pets,
Right.
And
all those things.
absolutely,
There's
that's
more in town.
one of the realities, right? Is that while ticks, or while deer bring ticks, but the ticks don't come to us, they also bring coyotes, and they do go after our dogs and cats and kids, right? So, and adults from time to time. So it is a real issue.
Did the biologists make any comments in regards
Other-
to that? Or?
Only that it was inevitable.
Okay.
It's gonna, yeah, that's something you could, without the deer population decreasing, that's something that's never, one of the, people say, well, why, and I ask this question, like, why, like, and 20 years ago, we never had this, that I
Yeah, but
can
we
recall.
didn't have the deer either, right?
We didn't have the
So,
deer, no.
The deer are coming because they're being chased out of the woods.
Right,
By developments and stuff like that, right?
Right.
The coyotes
Yeah.
are coming because they're coming after the deer.
Right.
So it's just
oh, yeah, it
a
follows.
vicious
Circle of life.
right? Absolutely.
Well, the other
circle of
thing,
life.
though, probably, and I don't know about Westville because I wasn't here 20 years ago, but I've been here 16 years ago, 17 years ago. But, in the past, if you think about our towns in particular, dogs ran wild.
Yep,
There were
absolutely.
dogs were not leashed.
Nope.
Dogs were not tied up. Dogs roamed, through town. Deer didn't like the dogs didn't like the deer too much.
Nope.
And if there were a deer that just wandered off out of the woods,
The dogs would
the
scare
dogs
them.
were after them.
Yep.
And the deer knew that. And so they stayed clear. Now, I mean, I can tell you, I'll plug my walking again, because look, I'm getting ready for the Westville 100 walk. When I'm out walking, on several places, I've gone by places with the dog tied out, and the deer, literally, not much difference between Sarah and I, and the dog looking at, barking, and the deer is just standing there looking at the dog.
Yep.
Happens at my house.
There's
Yep.
no, so things have changed greatly. These are a different breed of deer. So, that's another factor, I think, as to
absolutely.
why we have
Yeah.
them apparently. So, but anyway, we will do what we can do to address the deer situation and move on at our next meeting. All right. Oh, look, number 10, public engagement. Public engagement. Delegations, public engagement. Anyone have anything that they want to bring before council? We give you that opportunity now, or forever hold your peace. Fine. We will move on. I don't think we need it in camera this evening, do we?
Not that I'm aware.
I don't believe we do.
Unless somebody does.
So I just want to mention some of the things that are coming up then, some important things. We have a number of meetings, obviously. So the Recreation Committee will be meeting in the library on June the 2nd at 6 p.m. June 17th is the next Police Commission's meeting here in Chambers at 6 p.m. Planning Advisory will be on June the 18th, once again here in Council Chambers. Those are public meetings, by the way, no different than tonight. Please come and see what's going on. The Accessibility Committee will be meeting on the 19th of June at 7 p.m. And we just realized, thanks to Gordy McIntosh, one of our loyal opposition members, pointed out before the meeting that the next meeting was scheduled for June 30th, but that is our part of Canada Day celebrations, our council social, ice cream social in the park. So we're going to change that. Our next regular meeting then will be on the 23rd, the week before. So Monday the 23rd. We'll do
it with the cow?
We'll do, rather than the committee of the whole, we'll do
Oh.
regular council
Okay.
that night.
So the committee of the whole is gonna be
Yeah.
canceled, or, yeah, okay.
We'll
perfect.
just change that to say council, regular council. And like if we had someone that wanted to make a presentation, we can do
Yeah.
it there as well.
Yeah, we could add
So it's
it on.
not a big
Yeah,
problem.
Okay,
perfect.
council then,
So
okay.
that'll be on June 23rd, our next council meeting then. So we encourage people to start thinking about Canada Day. It's coming soon. No, the ice cream social will be at Acadia Park as usual. At the gazebo there in Acadia Park. And there's going to be entertainment, as well, there that evening. Melanie has looked after that, and it's going to be a great evening. We'll hope for good weather so we can do it outside this year. So that's that. Reference was made to June 14th, the Fireman's Barbecue. Tickets are out and available, I know. Get your tickets quickly. The seniors event for Canada Day, Seniors Night here at the Gymnasium, is on the 26th, as Councillor Dunn indicated. And I am wearing my Westville 100 walk pin. So just a reminder, June 21st, longest day of the year. Reverend Mary is going to be walking 100 kilometers. Your mayor is going to be walking somewhat less than 100 kilometers.
Somewhat less.
But an amount
Somewhat
to be,
less.
a distance to be determined. But I will be walking hopefully on June 21st. And it's going to be an exciting day. I know the Legion's pitched in. I know there's going to be events going on throughout town. So we're looking for a great day on the 21st. And I don't think there's anyone else have anything that we forgot. With that then, I declare the meeting adjourned.
Adjourned.
Excellent.